Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
Now Josh, you've not played Final Fantasy VII.
Not supposed to tell anyone.
No, but they need to know because, to be honest, the more that I explore the fact and talk to people in the office, I realise that it's a bit of a 50-50 split.
Yeah, it's like less people have played it than even I anticipated, and I have not even played it.
Yeah, but if you have played it, you know that Final Fantasy VII is one of the best games of all time, yada yada,
So
all the
I've
things
heard.
you've been hearing for the last 2 years that it's been out. Point being, there is a massive leak over on Reddit which has now been deleted, which kind of give it a little bit of credence, mainly because all the things included in this leak are just a little bit too precise to not be true, and the smoking gun is always the post being deleted.
Yes.
Alongside the fact that it was deleted, or it was put up and then deleted only 4 hours after a Square Enix live stream, comes from a Redditor called Square El Segundo, apparently from the publishing / localization branch of Square Enix.
So it seems pretty legit then.
It seems pretty legit, and it's one of those things that's worth talking about because there's so much in here that answers a lot of the things that fans wanted. It's not over the top, it's not too ridiculous. Usually when you get these things, it's like, it's just too good to be true, and it all ends up getting debunked. Basically, this thing seems very convincing, and there's a lot to be talked about, especially if it does end up being true.
Okay.
So, with you not playing Final Fantasy VII, this is hilarious for me. I'm kind of looking forward to this because there's going to be so much in here that you don't know.
Yes,
but we'll
almost
find
everything.
out.
I was looking over it, I was like, what do these words mean?
What's a Kate Sith? What's a Red 13? What's a Mako or a weapon? We'll find out. But I'll tell you some different things. One thing that came out immediately is that they're going to be showing more of this at E3. And they're apparently going to have a playable demo at E3 and on the show floor. But even more enticingly is that they'll have a playable demo for us, PS Plus people.
That's cool.
Apparently that's going to release straight after the show, which is kind of reminds me of what they did with PT. Where it's like, here's this thing, it's great, now go play it. Now, what do you think of that?
So does that mean,
hands-on?
that must mean a release date is pretty soon then?
Maybe. I mean, like, that was the thing. When this first got announced, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. They said they would follow up in December. They kind of missed that window, and then we got the teaser like last month or whatever it was at the State of Play. So yeah, it seems like things are starting to come together. The thing that goes hand in hand with the idea of a demo is that it's now been, if this is true, been confirmed that it's actually in 2 parts. Because there was the whole episodic release thing, which has now been split into 2. Now, both parts, according to the leak, are $59.99 each. Personally, I don't care because the size of you've no idea the size of this game.
Right.
And so I think they can totally justify $60 a piece. But yeah, that kind of gets around. I mean, is that still, I guess it is still an episodic release? It's more like a 2-part.
I'd rather them do it in a 2-part like this than an episodic release, because that just kind of seems like you would fracture the game up in a way that, it's not really made for. Again, I haven't really played it, so I don't know how neat that would be, but 2 parts, and I've seen where this first part supposedly ends.
Yes.
And that seems like a cool climax to then pick up in the other game. The sticker for me is the $60 for each part. I mean, I can see where you're coming from in that there is going to be so much content in this game, but there's so much content in like The Witcher 3, you know what I mean? And like, so to spend $120, I guess, on this
total.
one game, on a remake of a game that cost $60 back in the day.
In total, though.
In total. I don't know. If
we'll,
it's justified,
we'll get there. I'll potentially convince you. But yeah, so the word on the street, the word on the leak is that it'll be in 2 parts. Apparently the split, now this is where we get into that weird territory where obviously if you know Final Fantasy VII, you're probably aware that there are at least 2 massive identifying twists. Big spoilers for this game. And I'm going to describe one of them because I think that's the one that's pop culture enough.
Everyone knows this one.
Everyone knows this one.
I've written about it. I haven't even played it like a billion times.
Yes, this is the Vader, I'm your father of Final Fantasy VII, which is that Aerith dies. Now, this is apparently the point where the game splits, that you'll have her death scene because it's a big... I mean, it's quite an iconic scene. You have Cloud burying her back in the live stream, whatever. It doesn't matter. Specific nomenclature. He buries Aerith, and the scene will apparently fade to black, and that's the end of part 1. Now, if you've played the game, I'm actually going through it at the minute, so it's very helpful at the minute. That is about the halfway mark anyway. You can bloat the second half by doing a whole bunch of open world, optional side quests and bosses and stuff, but that's a pretty massive point to end the first half on. What do you think of that? I guess it's just because you know of that death anyway, so it's
That's
not,
it, yeah. I'm excited to see that like realized in this remake, but I don't know how natural that would be. Would that make the first part feel like a complete thing, in your opinion? Like, if you're going to play... I don't mind spending all this money on this game if it's good and each part feels distinct. What I don't want is to get to the end of that first part and then think, well, this is obviously just being cut off from something else. If it feels satisfying in and of itself.
It should. I mean,
maybe.
I've got a little bit more about Sephiroth because, they're trying to dance around the whole story. Basically, you're playing as Cloud, you're this random dude, you've got this whole mysterious past, you gather up your bunch of friends, and you go and track down Sephiroth, who's this sort of mysterious, legendary warrior who seems to have gone a bit crazy. And he sort of, like Sephiroth himself, finds out that he's descended from an alien called Genova, and there's a whole bunch of stuff with that. He kind of goes a bit crazy. That's why you're trying to hunt him down. The whole thing with him him, though, is that when you finally catch up to him the first time, that's what results in Aerith's death.
Right.
So you kind of have that first clash with him, and like one of those big sort of ramifications of that is that he ends up getting the drop on you and he kills Aerith, and that's this massive deal.
Yes.
And so you're then left completely shattered. That then leads into the other twist, which I'm not going to detail, but that's a big deal. So it's a great way to end that first half, because the way that Aerith dies and the way that Cloud reacts to it and all that, the agency that Cloud plays in that scene will play into the other twist as well.
Is there a lot of story content up to that point? Like, do you think this first part will be made mostly upon like story missions and main missions, or will it be padded out more than the original game with side quests and activities?
Well, they've said that it's pretty much fully open world. The gameplay demo or the gameplay teaser that they've shown so far just showed Midgar, which is the first like cyberpunk style city that you're in. But they said as part of the leak that they've made a point of making all the other zones really feel individual, which people all sort of know anyway. Like when you first get on a ship and you leave the first region, you go to this place called Costa del Sol, which is just like really over the top and very like like holiday destination 101, like like sandy beaches and blue seas and everything else. And so apparently they've doubled down on that. Every individual place feels like that. Midgar feels like this cyberpunk, like really dystopian kind of city, which it should do. But Calm is this sort of like militaristic base that's trying to protect one of the regions, and they've kind of like accentuated all those features.
Yeah, was the original idea that they were going to make each one of those areas like that was going to be each episode?
I think I don't know if that ever came like from anywhere officially. I think that was just the nightmare scenario when they said it was episodic. Because, well, I don't know how, I was going to say, to be honest, you could split all those individual cities into their own, like chunks or episodes. Maybe Midgar could absolutely be its own episode.
Yeah.
I think you get like less and less, like something like Costa del Sol wouldn't hold up as its own episode unless you flesh that out more. But yeah, apparently they've got a whole bunch of open world stuff that wasn't there before. Or they've got like a more freeform structure to it anyway, and all the zones feel more particular. Also on the combat side, this is where things get totally different, because this is going to be a full action game.
Yes.
Like it's different to the way that it was in Final Fantasy 7. Did you play 15 by any chance?
Yes, I did. Yes.
So I think in this one, for me, looking at it, it looks very similar to 15. But the detail given on the leak is that you will have light attacks and heavy attacks. It's light on square, heavy on triangle. You've got to build up to using the triangle attacks.
Cool.
Which makes me think of Kingdom Hearts.
Yes.
Because you're building stuff up and then unleashing a special, which is kind of like a cool idea. Apparently summons and limit breaks are as they were, which might not mean anything to you.
No, it means
but when you would summon these big dudes, it would just play a cutscene.
Right.
Which is like, I don't know, some people get sick of that stuff, like the whole just playing a cutscene and then it does the cool thing.
Not being sort of like in this franchise or this universe, like how are you going to react to like the combat changing so substantially in this?
Well, initially I was like, oh god, but that's only me. That's only because I adore turn-based combat. Give me that all day long. I love it. But yeah, I'm kind of waiting to be seen. After going back through Final Fantasy 7 and now rewatching Advent Children, I'm game for something that just lets me control these characters that I love, like one-to-one. So there is that. I'm kind of curious as to how it feels, because I didn't think 15 felt especially good.
I know what you mean. Like it looked good, but I don't think it felt good, if that makes sense.
That was kind of the thing. So I'm kind of curious with that. But one of the things in here, speaking of summons, which is just quickly, is that apparently there's a new summon called Amarok, who is apparently from, it's based off a wolf, which some of the comments in this follow-up to the Reddit thread have said that apparently Amarok is from Inuit mythology, and is this big like wolf, this big idea of this giant wolf that comes and saves people or whatever. But that ties into the sort of iconography that Cloud's had over the years, because new modern iterations of Cloud and in Advent Children have had a wolf symbol.
Right.
So that kind of makes sense. Maybe that was something on the cutting room floor that they've brought back, a la the Crash Team Racing, the
cool.
Crash remake or whatever. So that idea is kind of cool. We've already talked about the open world stuff, but this leak confirms that the Tiny Bronco and the Chocobos are back in the open world, which again means nothing, but the Tiny Bronco is a little plane.
The Don Brocos and the Tiny...
No, he's not there.
Okay,
no, I wish they were there, but sadly they're not there. The Tiny Bronco, though, with the little plane. I don't know why I'm doing that. That's not how you ride a plane, but there's a little plane. And so you're doing a little plane. And there's also, you've heard of Chocobos.
Yes.
Sometimes called Chocobos. I always thought it was Chocobo. So Chocobo is pretty much confirmed as a way to get around in the world itself.
Oh, God, yeah.
And this is where we get into very specific story and character-based stuff, which I showed Josh a character sheet before we came in.
Yes, you did.
Just because I wanted you to have like some reaction to this. So the first one to talk about is Sephiroth. Now, the whole thing with Sephiroth, like I said, is that you're building up to clashing with him, and every time you come close to him, you pretty much fight him, or he says something cryptic to you, and then he leaves. And then eventually he plays a part in breaking Cloud's mind with these different twists and everything. But the way that they've sort of seeded that in the remake, apparently, is that he shows up way earlier in Cloud's visions as he's starting to break down.
Yeah, well, you even mentioned this when you saw the state of play thing to me, didn't you? Like he's not supposed to be where.
No, because
he wasn't
that's the thing. So in the original Final Fantasy VII, you've got Cloud sort of grabbing his head and freaking out at the very beginning, or in a variety of scenes in the first third of the game, and you never really know why that's happening. There's like voices in his head and all that. It all gets answered later on. But those things do relate to Sephiroth, and apparently they're planting those seeds a lot more clearly this time.
Cool.
Where Sephiroth will show up and talk to you, or he'll say a line or two in those early scenes, and then he'll leave. So you'll sort of be forever haunted by this idea of Sephiroth and this connection between the two of them, which is, something that pop culture's played on or Advent Children's played on, and it makes a lot more sense. If you delve into the making of Final Fantasy VII in 1997, the localization team was one dude.
Yeah.
And he obviously did the best he could, but there's a bunch of specific plot points that didn't really come across and that could have done.
Yes.
Let's say. So I think they're doing a better job this time of connecting the two together. So that stuff is cool. The next thing is Tifa. Now we haven't seen Tifa at all, but according to the leak, Tifa's actual character model is being based on the original version. I do
know what this is.
You do know what this is. Now it's not the reduxed version from Advent Children that was in the full black garb. Apparently it's one with the white top and the old school look.
Yes.
Which I love. I don't want it to be ridiculously anime oversexed as it was in the game's cutscenes, where her boobs are pretty much two planets. I don't need that. Do that pose for gifting. Don't need that, but I do like the old school costume, the look of it.
Yeah, me too. So, yeah. I mean, again, it means kind of nothing to me, but even without playing that game, that was always an iconic look. I always associated with that game, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think all the characters have their specific looks. Yeah. I think it's like if there's one thing that you want to kind of nail down, it's the nostalgia factor. There was a whole thing doing the rounds on Twitter where it was like, what was your first video game crush? And I was like, I don't think I have one. And then I looked at Tifa and I was like, it's Tifa. It's got to be Tifa. It's Tifa or Aerith, one of the two. Another thing in terms of new stuff is that one bit at the beginning of the game is you're chasing down Sephiroth. You go to this big place called the Shinra Mansion, big like evil corporation mansion. You get to the top, you talk to the big president, and then and you start to find that in the top of the tower, there's a whole bunch of different experiments going on.
Cool.
Turns out there's a talking dog. He's called Red 13. He's brilliant. There's a whole plot line with Red 13 that you'll find out. He's a descended. He's an ancient dude. He's got some stuff. They apparently have added 2 more specimens for you to fight at the top of this thing.
Okay.
So you eventually rescue Red 13, but apparently there are 2 additional ones called Cobalt 14 and Indigo 15 that show up to be fought at the top of the Shinra Tower. Now, this won't mean a whole lot to you, but the idea of awesome, cool-looking ancient tribal dogs that talk.
Sure, I'm down for that.
Give me more
totally
of them.
Down for that, yeah.
So that's one thing, and so apparently the Shinra Tower itself has less floors now, but there's more to do on each floor.
Cool.
So that's like just a little sort of gameplay tweak thing. Now I need to tell you something ridiculous.
All right.
Did you know the Final Fantasy... Actually, no. Do you know what the Golden Saucer is?
No.
It's a theme park.
Good?
It is good. There's a theme park in the middle of the Final Fantasy VII world.
Yes.
And it looks like a giant plant, but then when you get there, it's like a giant theme park with a bunch of different places to go.
Why does the whole game not take place there?
I don't know. Well, you can make it that. You can go live there if you want.
Okay.
There's loads of mini games there. And so that's apparently what they've replicated this time around. You can go to the Golden Saucer and you can play a whole bunch of different mini games like you could in the original one, including snowboarding and there's like a sumo wrestling thing. There's arm wrestling where you bash the buttons to do a thing. There's just random stuff in there. And apparently, according to the new leak, more games get added to the Golden Saucer as you finish different missions in the main story, which is like in the original because eventually Cloud goes snowboarding and then that unlocks a snowboarding minigame at the Golden Saucer. Why? Because video games.
Yeah, why?
But why not?
Everyone just tells me this game is like so serious and like so like important.
Oh, who told you it was serious?
Well, not serious, but like it has like a great story and a great message, and then it's got a theme park at the center of the universe.
It's anime AF. It's got everything.
Right.
It's got you can pick stuff out where it's got a very good message, but there's also some ridiculous stuff like a little marshmallow being ridden by a cat. Which, speaking of which, have you heard of Kate Sith?
No.
Good, because Kate Sith, according to the leak, is pretty much as he was in the original. People thought that they might change it.
Yes.
Because Kate Sith, as a character, is a little robot cat that rides like a plushie of like a white sort of round plush thing. Rides that, like that again. But the robot cat that's on top of the thing is like controlled by an evil scientist, and then he kidnaps some people, and they never really tie that off. So I don't know if they're going to do more with that. But do you want a cat on top of a plushie?
You lost me at Robot Cat.
But you're in for Robot Cat.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's good. So that's what you need. Apparently they say his name weird. They call him Kate Sith, which I don't want to get used to that at all.
How do you pronounce it?
Kate Sith. It's C-A-I-T.
That's right.
It is Kate Sid.
I'm an authority on pronunciations.
Yeah, you are. Another thing that they've changed, we'll get into the end, but little things that matter. I guarantee those people in the comments will care. Sid, who's a character who he controls this giant sort of like airship.
Yes.
And he was always thought of as the cool dude. There's always a Sid in every Final Fantasy. In Final Fantasy VII, Sid has like a big like dual pole thing, and he's really cool. He's like an engineer, and he sort of like flies rockets, and he's got a big airship. If you play it back now, he's a massive dick to the woman that he lives with. The dialogue that was written for him is extremely aggressive towards the person that he lives with.
Right.
They give it justification, as in, well, it's meant to be justification, that she messed up the launch of his biggest rocket, and then he's forever annoyed at her for the rest of time, even though she is up for killing herself to let the rocket take off. She's in the way of the blast radius, and she's like, just kill me, just do your thing. You've been building to this your whole life, just kill me and do your thing. And he aborts the rocket launch to save her, and then forever hates her for the rest of his life.
Okay.
And it's just really weird. They've apparently toned down the aggressiveness of his dialogue, thank God. And they've also made it so he smokes less, although they've made it so it's implied that he still smokes.
Makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Smoking wasn't a big deal of his character, but as long as he's got the pole, and I just want it to be cool. Just ride the ship and don't abuse your wife. That's all I want him to do. So there's that. Two optional characters. Have you heard of Yuffie and Vincent?
No.
Have you heard of a vampire? There's a vampire in Final Fantasy.
Is there?
Yeah. So there's a vampire, right? And he lives in. I said the evil dudes before. Evil Shinra, big tower. Though they already own a mansion, and there's a big mansion, and it's very like haunted house mansion. He's a vampire. He's a former experiment. Lives under the mansion, and you can optionally go find him. And he's been sleeping for however long, many years. Yeah, and he's in love with someone. I think I forgot what she's called, the woman that he's in love with anyway. And you can hire him, because when you're on your big mish to go get Sephiroth, he's like, well, I'll go and kill the man, and so you can get a vampire on your team.
I want that.
Me
I really
too.
want that.
Back in the day, this stuff was optional. Yuffie as well is like a wind ninja. She sort of throws like a giant shuriken. It's about as big as her.
Brilliant.
She sort of throws the whole thing. And both those characters were always optional back in the day, but now they're mandatory. They've made them so they're part of the story.
Cool.
So everyone can get in on the vampire action.
And I want the vampire action.
It's pretty good. I mean, they made like a weird spin-off on the PS2 where you can only play as Vincent, and it was bad, but I forced myself to like it because I like Vincent.
I'm gonna play the crap out of that
It's called Dirge of Cerberus. I don't recommend you pick it out.
What's a good title,
I know. And they did the whole thing where they were like, oh, everyone loves Final Fantasy VII. He has everything other than a remake. And it was like, yeah, okay. The next thing down is, oh god. So there's a scene in Final Fantasy VII. There's a cross-dressing scene where maybe have you seen the cross-dressing scene?
Maybe.
So there's a scene. There's a scene where you need to. You're basically trying to get back one of your party members who's been taken hostage by this dude called Don Corneo. Because he's like this sort of like sex pimp man, and he's into the ladies, and you need to convince him to essentially get picked by him to get taken to his chambers to then rescue your friend. And the way that you do this back in 1997 is to cross-dress, and then to get in and to be so pretty that you get picked out. And it was a very problematic scene, or it probably would be today. And they said, well, how are you gonna localize that? How are you gonna make that work, or modernize that rather in the modern age? Well, Cloud's gonna put a dress on and a wig still. So that was a scene. I mean, I'm gonna wait and see how it comes together.
They can do it. You know what? They almost they kind of got away with that in Breath of the Wild. It was fine there when you have to dress as one of the female people to get into the desert. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it could work.
I think there's a way to do it. And to be honest, if you go back to that original scene, it's not that bad. Right. It's very much like played for laughs in terms of Cloud's very self-aware. I don't even know. There's probably a way to do it, hopefully, that doesn't anger the entire world.
Yes.
Hopefully. But that scene apparently is still in. And the next thing down, oh god. So there's two final things. Okay. These are very minuscule. The first one you won't care about, and barely do I. They've changed the way that you get into the Honeybee Inn. You no longer need a membership card. You can just pay your way in with Gale.
Oh, but I want to be a member?
No, you don't need it. It always took forever to get the card, and people missed out on the really horrific scene that was inside there, which isn't mentioned in this leak. But there's a really weird scene in there, which I'm not going to get into. You can Google it if you want. The Honeybee Inn scene in Final Fantasy VII. Very bad, very outdated. You do whatever you want. The thing I'm going to end on though is that the squatting minigame returns.
Yes, do you want the Lord?
Yes.
What's
so
that?
There's a bit right where it's part of that whole thing where you're working your way towards Don Corneo, and you need the wig to be the cross dress, and so you go to talk to this dude who owns this gym. I think he's called Big Bro. And he's got the record for squatting, and he has a wig because why not? And so you talk to him, and he's like, "Well, look, I'll give you this wig if you can squat more than me. If you can squat faster." Yeah, that's not squatting, but a bit of squatting. And so you talk to him, and he's like, "Well, I'll challenge you to a squat off." Brilliant. And so the game gives you I think it's 3 buttons. It's like you ready yourself with square, you squat with X, and you get back up with circle, and you got to do that over and over again in like a 30-second window as much as you can. And then once you've squatted him to death, he goes like, "Oh God, I've got to give you the wig." And a lot of people thought, well, is that even going to be in a modern game in 2020 or whenever the hell it comes out? Yes, it is. Yes. Squatting minigame confirmed. Are you looking forward to that? So to wrap up with everything that I've told you, what do you now think of Final Fantasy 7? Do you have any handle on this game at all?
I think I'm going to be just as lost as when I jumped into Kingdom Hearts 3. I had no idea what was going on, but this sounds even more wild and even funner.
Could you just very quickly, can you extrapolate on, you said that you'd heard it was quite a serious game.
Yes.
Because that seems to be the thing that I'm hearing in the office as well, is they're like, oh, it's very serious Final Fantasy.
Well, I know it's obviously
it is,
like very
kinda
wacky, but I didn't expect it to be this wacky. I always thought like when you talk about like the stories in video game history,
yes,
people always say Final Fantasy 7 and Metal Gear Solid. In both are very wacky games, obviously, but I thought both had very serious undertones.
Yes.
And I'm starting to think maybe Final Fantasy 7. It's more wacky than I thought.
Metal Gear is a very good comparison because Metal Gear is ridiculous, but always has those like psychological, philosophical underpinnings that like make it work on a wider sense if you want it to.
Yes.
Final Fantasy is very on the nose with it. It literally says like protect the planet. The planet has the life force or the life stream, and if you wound the planet, then the planet will repair itself with the life stream. And there's all that stuff. You want to protect the planet, the ancients, and the Mako. It's a thing. But yes, it seems like it seems based on this that they're making all the right moves. I'm pretty excited, and I wasn't that bothered before. I thought they were going to kind of just get it wrong.
Well, he's the thing. I might have come across as a very ignorant man in this video, and I am not trying to take the mick out of Final Fantasy 7. I am very, very excited for it. Just when it's written down like this, it all sounds wild, and I'm very much here for it.
Yes, me too. There's a vampire and a little robotic cat driving a giant plushy marshmallow man like that, and a little plane called the Tiny Bronco.
Sure. I also want to make one thing clear, that I would have played Final Fantasy 7 on my PlayStation Classic had Scott. He keeps telling me not to do it.
No,
he keeps
don't.
threatening me with violence.
And
all
three of you out there that bought the PlayStation Classic, don't play Final Fantasy 7 on it. It's the worst version of that game. Get the PS4 one.
Fortunately, there's a remake coming out.
There is a remake coming out, but I would still totally recommend the original. That's the thing with this, is that this is really good, but it ain't going to replace the original.
Yes.
At least I highly doubt it. But anyway, for now, these are all the latest details on Final Fantasy 7 that hopefully will come true. And yes, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
And I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.